Wow, big show today on Coach's Corner in Southern California on an award-winning radio station called KHTS AM 1220. Honored to have in the studio a kicker, football player, kicker, Jake Calver, honoring us today with his presence. He's kind of auditing you, Justin. He's checking you out to see what it's like to produce a radio show.
Lucky fellow.
Yeah, and with me, my partner, every week at 1 o'clock, and we could do every day. He doesn't want to do every day. The famous basketball coach in the state of California, Coach Greg Herrick, one of the winningest lady basketball coaches in the country. And how are you, pal?
Well, I'm just back from Phoenix. You know, I attended the Final Four, and I got all kinds of stories I want to share with you later. But we got a guest here. We do have a guest here, and we're going to put the guest on right off the bat because it's a great subject. We have to also mention he's sitting to my right, Kyle Jellings. We're live on Facebook, so if you want to see how handsome Coach Herrick is or how handsome I am, just go to Facebook. Just look at Brad Pitt's biography page.
Just go to Facebook Live. Coach's Corner here, 1 o'clock. And also we're going to have a little hockey conversation day a little later on in the show. Kyle, how are you, pal?
Doing well. How are you?
Yeah. So you have something. You're irritated about March. You don't want 70,000 people attending.
I don't.
Why?
Well, I need to talk to Coach about this, Coach Herrick about this, because I need to know. It seems like such a huge difference for the players. That's first off, 70,000 people. It's a total money grab, which is upsetting me, as is. But it's got to be tougher for the kids too. Not only is there the atmosphere already is different because it's championship, it's the Final Four, but there's also it just feels different because it's so big and it's just it feels like a different atmosphere altogether, and I think it makes for the basketball not as good.
Well, let me tell you about my experience. I've never participated as a coach or a player in the Final Four, but I've attended 35 Final Fours in a row. The first one I attended was in the Pit in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which holds about 19,000.
Yeah.
And since then, it's gone to the point where there's only 5 stadiums that can really hold the event because they get 70,000 people. But let me tell you about my experience of playing in a big arena as a coach. You know, my Cleveland High teams won the city section basketball championships in the Los Angeles Sports Arena where the Lakers used to play back in the day. And we got there early the day of the semifinal game. Way earlier than I had to get a custodian to open the arena to get us in there to shoot because the depth perception on shooting is terrible.
Yeah.
Now if you look at any game played, high school, college, at the arena level, look at the shooting percentages. They're not going to be good. So you know our attitude from the coach's perspective was to make sure we got shots around the basket, that we weren't going to rely on bombs from, in those days there was no 3-line, but bombs from that area. And there is a big difference between shooting. Now, schools like North Carolina and Kentucky who play in big arenas, not as big as that, of course, but you know, I don't think it's as a factor as it is to a high school kid that's going into from a high school gym into a big arena like that. But it is, and I think it does have an effect, and I think you've got something going there when you say the shooting is bad, and it is. So, you know, what you got to do is, you know, design your defense accordingly as a coach because you know the perimeter shot's not going to maybe be there as consistently as it normally is. So that is a big factor, and let me just say about the game between North Carolina and Gonzaga, won by North Carolina, the championship game. And I've been watching for 35 years. That was the worst played game.
Oh, wow.
That I've seen in the championship game, and the worst officiated game I've ever watched.
So you're playing right into my cards here. Like that's what I'm saying is there's already jitters because of the championship game, and to add that effect, it just makes for bad basketball, and that's the biggest stage that college basketball is going to be on. It's just bad for the sport. It's bad for college basketball. It's just bad for everyone.
Well,
and then the fans.
It's maybe bad for the quality.
Yeah,
but it's not bad for the money.
Yeah, well, that's exactly
you know. You should have seen the crowds that were there. You know, I'm watching the game and I'm looking at the officials, and if I was coaching in that game, I probably would have been teed up.
You're teed up.
No, because I would have said to the refs, nobody came here to watch you referee.
Yeah,
you're over officiating the game. You know, you took the Gonzaga big guys out of the game. I mean, it was just like, they were going to be a factor because of the foul troubles. And I saw a few fouls that I go, let them play. They're big guys. Let them bump.
All right, that's enough. Get it out, Kyle. Who you bitter? What team did you bet on that lost?
No, I picked North Carolina actually in the pool. I was just upset. And then I saw people on Facebook, they paid $180 for tickets for nosebleeds, and basketball courts are a lot smaller than football stadiums.
Not only that, Joe Barry was the player of the tournament from North Carolina, Joe Barry II, which is another issue I always like to talk. Why do these guys now put on the second or junior on their jersey? I don't even get that.
Stop it. College basketball is over. Let's move it on the show called Coach's Corner on KHTS, award-winning radio station right here in Santa Clarita. I'm your coach, Coach Ron Tunick, with Coach Greg Herrick. So a big shout-out to Kyla Conrad. Kyla. How did I say Kyla? Kayla.
You just got both of her names wrong.
Read.
Kayla Conrad.
Kayla Conrad.
There it is.
She was the All-SCV Girls Basketball Player of the Year, and I loved her comments about team, about working hard, and being a leader. I think her generation is going to do incredible, Coach. I really do.
Well, I'm in the field, so I understand the concept.
And you know her.
And I'm winning, and I know her, and I know their program. You don't win without that attitude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's people don't get, you can have a one-on-one player and he can be great, but statistically it's going to show you that players that are committed to the team concept of basketball are winners.
Well, I'm recruiting Jake to be our street feet on the street. Can you get Kayla to come in the studio next week? Can you talk to her?
I can do that for you.
You can do that. All right. How about boys? How about SCV Boys Basketball Player of the Year? Zach Phipps.
There you go again, not being able to read.
Public education coach. Zach, how do you pronounce the last
Phipps.
name? Phipps. Saugus is winning something. Okay, I have to support Saugus in this studio, okay? Look at the way he's looking at me, Kyle. He's a Valencia homer.
Well, no. Zach Phipps played for Saugus High School.
Yeah.
The coach of Saugus High School is Bill Bedgood. He played for me at Hart High School, so I'm connected to this.
You're dating him.
Somehow I'm connected to this player of the year because I coached his coach.
Can you get Zach in
So I think are you taking credit for it right now?
I take credit any chance I can get.
That's what it sounds like. All right, let's move on. The show's called Coach's Corner here on KHTS, an award-winning radio station. So let me just read something, and then you can introduce our one. Let me read. This is interesting. I'm going to read the whole book. It's here's a paragraph. After the divorce, my dad mailed me a letter to explain why he had left. I read it and then squirreled it away somewhere. I don't recall much of what it said because it was so long ago, but I do remember him telling me about him being in the Army and serving our country in Iraq and how terrible things were and what he witnessed and the nightmares that he experienced. My dad sent me more and more letters through the years, but I never opened them. So I love reading that. Who's the author?
Let me introduce the author of that. The title of the it's a manuscript still.
It is still, yes.
Okay, and it's called The Kid Who Saved Basketball. I've read it. It was excellent, and it's a story of redemption. It's about a 17-year-old basketball player from Los Angeles dealing with real life and the challenges of following your dreams. I coached in the Los Angeles City section, and many of the characters in this manuscript that I read mirrored the kinds of guys that I coached. I mean, I saw some of the players that I had for years in this book. Our guest is Craig Leener. He's a longtime reporter for a local newspaper, and that's where I met him. He was covering our games at College of the Canyons, and I'm telling you, I always thought he gave an assessment. He asked intelligent questions. His work was always well done, and you could see it was well prepared. Craig, thank you for being on the show today.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Coach.
So what brings you to, first of all, you got to come back, not today because we're not about your book, but I love to go some of the interviews you had with Mr. Teed Up here, Coach Herrick. But what brought you to writing a book like this? Something happened in your life, or what possessed you to write this book?
Well, I think like all people who like to write, we all feel like we have a book in us, and I decided to finally make good on that. The inspiration for the story came in a really unlikely place. in the Chapel of Ease at San Fernando Mission, to the Catholic church there. I was there for a funeral for a friend's mom back in January of last year. And at the time, I was trying to put this story together and really struggling with the hook, trying to find the concept that was going to drive the story. And at some point during the service, I looked up at the wall behind where the priest was talking to everybody, and it's a mural like the religious history of the world. And I consider myself more of a spiritual being than a religious one. I'm certainly not Catholic. But I looked up and I closed my eyes and I said, I'm really struggling with my story. What do you got for me? And I waited, and about a minute later, I heard this voice say to me, they're taking the game away. And in that moment, those 5 words, I had my story.
Wow. Our wonderful guest on the show called Coach's Corner is Craig Leener. So sports changed my life. I was a foster kid, bounced around every year in a different home.
You were a Foster Freeze kid, too.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. And if it wasn't for my high school baseball coach, Ray O'Connor and Hal Lambert, who's our football coach, I don't know where I'd be today. And I know Coach Herrick I've seen him with his ex-players. I've seen the love that they have expressed to him. And tell me a little bit about the story in your book. The title of your book is The Kid Who Saved Basketball. So share a little bit of the story with us.
Well, Ezekiel Archer, nicknamed Zeke, he is a 17-year-old basketball star playing for high school in Los Angeles. He's in the seeded finals against his arch rival, Mid-City Prep. And his arch nemesis from the other team, towards the end of the game, takes a cheap shot at one of Zeke's teammates, clotheslines him, and kid goes down. Zeke, at the crossroads, perpetrates an act of violence. And it cost him the game. They forfeit the game. He's expelled and thrown into the California version of purgatory, high school purgatory, and that's continuation school. And on top of all that, he loses his full ride scholarship to a big Midwestern basketball powerhouse, all in just a span of a couple of days.
And, you know, in my experience as a coach, obviously 40 years as a coach, and I taught a continuation for 18 years locally at Bowman High School here in town. And that's what the appeal, when I was reading your book, how accurate it was and how real your character development was, because like I said, when you read something and you remember saying, well, yeah, I remember that guy, maybe not that person in the book, but that guy that you're talking to, the personal makeup of those characters. And that's what I think I told you after I got done, is the character development and your real life interpretation of basketball for high schoolers, for somebody like me who's, not only went through it as a player, but went through it as a coach. And I coached in Los Angeles City section. A lot of those guys, how did you get that real grasp of that, from something in your background that?
Certainly covering the sport for the college and high school level, and also as a player, I played varsity basketball at Van Nuys High School. I was what I refer to as the 13th best player on the team, a team of 13 players.
That was me in college, so I'm with you on that.
And those experiences working and sharing teamwork with 12 other guys is where I got that from.
Now, when's the book going to be out so we can promote it when it comes out?
Well, it publishes on May 23rd via the Amazon.com platform, which is really the best platform for independent authors. It is not quite ready for pre-order. However, if you go onto the website, thekidwhosavedbasketball.com, you can find out how to get in line for the pre-order.
What did you take away from writing this book? The book is entitled The Kid Who Saved Basketball. What did you personally take away from writing the book?
The main thing is that we can really do anything we want to do in this life if we just plan for it properly, lay down the proper foundation. People can do anything as long as they figure out how to plan for it successfully.
All right, before we let you go, I got to ask you, you were a sports reporter for high school and college. Is there one game that stands out, and don't tell me it's going to be a Michael Herrick touchdown pass. I don't want to hear it. Is there one game that stands out?
There's many of those.
Yeah, I know. All state, all everything.
I have trouble recalling any one of those particular touchdowns. There's a whole bunch of them.
I know. We're going to hear about them through the years, trust me.
He'll be insufferable if you choose one of those games.
Yeah. Is there one game where you go, Coach, I just got to tell you about this game?
Well, I did cover the game that Michael broke the state.
Oh, here we go.
See that?
But that's not the one.
Kyle, let's go out.
They're just haters.
There's a lot of ego in this room.
They're just haters.
When I was hired at the newspaper in 2005, I got the assignment to cover the conference home opener for Coach Herrick's women's basketball team. I never met him. I heard through some of the other reporters that he was a good quote. And
interesting.
As a sports writer, when you get a good quote, you can usually drive the story. The keys start to move on their own. So I go to the game, and Coach Herrick has the better team, but he's letting the other team hang around.
Yeah, I'm letting them hang around.
Not you personally.
And so your team won the game, not very many points. And I introduced myself afterwards, and I said, kind of fumbled through a gingerly asked question like, what happened out there today? And he just looked at me and he said, my players couldn't guard a dead man tonight.
That's the author of a book that I hope you all investigate and look into. I'm going to read it cover to cover. I love stuff like this because a story like this and what you just said, the essence of the book is that you can achieve anything in life, right? But you've got to have a plan, and don't you have to have a mentor? Don't you have somebody like a Coach Herrick to kind of show you a pathway?
I've had mentors in my life in journalism and in sports. And on the editorial side of this book, too, my New York-based editor, Judy Gidenstein, was instrumental in walking me through this process. My high school basketball coach, Bert Golden, also. I'm still in touch with him. He's an author himself.
Very cool. Thanks for coming in the studio. When the book comes out, you need to come back, okay? We need to have you come back. And,
you can count on it. Thank you.
Yeah, look forward to it. All right, the book is called The Kid Who Saved Basketball. It's going to be out at the end of May. It's Coach Greg Herrick and me, Coach Ron Tunick, along with Kyle Jellings. Justin is with us, and we have a wonderful guest in the studio from Valencia High School, the kicker. And I don't
say that like it's
I don't think kickers.
Secondary.
I don't think kickers belong in sports.
No, I'm telling you.
Wait, say that again. Hold on a second.
In football, I don't think kickers belong in football.
Well, then you have to change the name of the
Look at this
sport.
kid.
It's called football.
This kid looks like he's handsome. He should be a model somewhere.
I told you this
putting
story.
his life on the line.
The kick on my son's Valencia High team that went to the CIF championship game. The kicker, to me, was the most valuable player because he kicked the ball on every kickoff into the end zone.
You don't believe that?
I
cut
do.
His mic off. Justin,
much as you talk about.
Thank you for being honest.
He's a liar. But
cut his mic.
Your coach was Brian Millette, the guy who I'm talking about. And he was an outstanding kicker. And do you know how important that is to kick the ball in the end zone without a return?
And we got to take a commercial break here. The show is called
You're just not on my level. That's the problem.
Coach's Corner. That's Coach Greg Herrick. He's teeing it up. I'm hoping we get a caller from Chicago because do you know anything about hockey?
They play on ice.
Oh, Jake knows about hockey. We might have to put him on the microphone.
Is that a real sport?
Well, oh boy, we need to go to commercial, Justin. Quickly go to commercial.
Let's call it tease.
The show is sponsored by one of my favorite flooring companies, Marty's Flooring, right here. And how did Dustin do?
He was great.
Yeah,
we hung out and talked some ball.
Hart basketball, 6'7".
It's true.
And then I buy all my furniture there, Douglas Furniture. I'm telling you, if you're thinking about buying furniture, this family, the Green family, anyway, Douglas Furniture, we'll be right back.